January 27th is the Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day to pay homage to the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and millions of other victims of Nazism. For more, we're lucky to have on our set Pierre-François Veil, Vice President of the Foundation of the Memory of the Shoah. Just to bring our viewers up to speed, Pierre-François, both your parents' remains are in France's Pantheon, reserved for national heroes. Your father, Antoine, narrowly escaping being rounded up in World War II, fleeing France with his family to Switzerland. Your mother, Simone, a Holocaust survivor, women's rights politician, and distinguished politician who was instrumental in legalizing abortion in France. Thank you for joining us on this set.
Thank you.
You know the significance of this day firsthand, but for some of our viewers who might be more removed, tell us about why today is so important.
You said that it was the day of remembrance. It's the day when the Soviet troops arrived to Auschwitz. They didn't know where they arrived, and maybe as a symbol, they arrived in a camp which was almost empty. In fact, most of the deported people, most of the prisoners, were gone from January 18th because the Germans knew that the Russians were coming. They took the deported and they took them through the what we call the Marche de la Mort, the death walk to Gleiwitz, 80 kilometers in west, to claim on trains. Half of the people who were taken to this walks died on the road. And when the Russian arrived, only few hundreds of people were there. They were too weak to walk, and nobody knows why. The Germans didn't kill them. Probably they forgot. They were so hurried and so, in such a chaos that they left, and they left behind them some survivors. And among them a great author, of course. I forgot his name, but whatever. This is very symbolic because, in fact, people were dead. 6 million people were dead. Among them, quarter of them, 1,500,000 or 600, died in Auschwitz by the Holocaust, in the gas chamber, and this must not be forgotten.
Must not be forgotten. Your parents sharing their stories with you, but as a parent, I'm wondering, how do you broach this topic with a child? Do you remember how they first told you?
I don't know if they told me. It was part of. As far as I remember, it was part of our history. First of all, my grandparents on my mother's side disappeared during the war, which means that I didn't have grandparents, first of all. Secondly, I always saw on my mother's arm a number. The number was tattooed when she arrived in Auschwitz. And this brings, I assume this brings question very young, an explanation, and it was part of his life, and that was like this. More than this, when I was 8, 9, 10, in the early 60s, my mother had friends, comrades from the deportation, and she met them. So we were seeing them at home. She had excellent friends. Marceline Yoridan, Ginette Kolinka, who were coming and visiting my mother, or my mother was going to visit them. So it was part of her life. That's like this.
Pierre-François, you're in this position sort of where you're like a bridge between a generation that experienced this firsthand and one that's relating it to younger generations. Your foundation working a lot with these younger generations in terms of education and efforts to try to prevent future atrocities. When you look at younger generations, is there the risk of indifference at all?
I don't think there is a risk of indifference. There was a risk of forgiveness 25 years ago because we had very few information on what happened, in fact. After the war, people wanted to forget. After the war, people want to survive, they wanted to forget, and nobody worked enough on what happened. And in the 70s and in the 80s, when the risk of negationism came, then historians, and among them, of course, Serge Klarsfeld, worked a lot to establish the facts, to find proofs, to discover what happened. Although because of what happened in 1989, that is to say that it was much easier to go to Poland, to go to East Europe, to Eastern Europe, we could work, and historians could work on what happened. Nevertheless, today the risk is not forgot. The risk is banalisation. The risk is to compare and to have the idea that Shoah was one of many other crimes committed in their history. What happened in the Shoah, what happened also in Rwanda, what happened are very specific and must not be forgotten. Why? Because it could reappear somewhere else, totally differently. And we always, and it's not just for sake of memory, it's not only because we want to remember, it's also because we want to educate young generation, as you said. But if we do our work, if we do it as it must be done, then I'm confident that the young generation will become, at their turn, these people to transmit this memory.
Let's hope so. Pierre-François, thank you very much for your time. Pierre-François
Thanks
Veil from the Foundation for the Memory of the Shoah.
Thank you.